Hi, good evening. You're tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. Walk-in boosters for adults start tomorrow. And flooding disaster costs over 6 billion ringgit. Businesses affected want government to intervene. That's coming up. Anyone over 18 can walk in all government's vaccination centers, PPVs, starting tomorrow to receive their COVID-19 vaccine boosters. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin says that no appointment is needed. He added that the type or brand of the vaccines would depend on availability of stock at respected PPVs. Meanwhile, those wanting to get their jabs at private PPVs or GP clinics were advised to call and set an appointment for available time slots. As of today, almost 50% of the population aged 18 above have received their booster dose. Meanwhile, Malaysia suffered an estimated loss of 6.1 billion ringgit from floods that devastated much of the country last month. According to a special report by the Statistics Department, damage to public assets and infrastructure alone caused losses of up to 2 billion ringgit.
Another 1.6 billion ringgit were in damages to homes, while manufacturing losses accounted for 900 million ringgit. The department also reported heavy damage to vehicles, business premises and the agricultural sector. Selangor was the worst hit, with overall losses topping 3.1 billion ringgit, followed by Pahang and Malacca. 54 people were killed in the devastating floods. Selangor recorded the highest at 25 deaths, while more than 120,000 people were displaced.
The Malaysian Employers Federation revealed that about a third of total businesses affected by the recent floods suffered financial loss. Executive Director Dato' Shamsuddin Bardan called for the government to intervene in expediting insurance claims to help most of these businesses stay afloat.
We know that the floods in the Klang Valley was pretty heavy and of course damages can be very serious. And this is where, of course, they need to actually claim against their insurance companies. But we know that it's not going to be very easy for us to make those kind of claims to the insurance companies. And this is where we actually require the government to intervene on this aspect so that, the government can actually assist to expedite the payments or the approval of claims made by companies to the insurance companies. Yeah, so that I think is a critical part. And of course, we know that with COVID and also with recent floods, most companies are actually having a cash flow problem. And of course, the quick settlement of the insurance claims will really actually give them this lifeline for them to continue with their businesses.
A way for the government to assure expedition of insurance claim approvals, he said, is through Bank Negara Malaysia.
Insurance companies are under the supervision of Bank Negara. So the Bank Negara actually can play a very critical role here in trying to assist businesses. I'm sure Bank Negara would actually, have the business interests at heart, in the sense that if businesses having difficulty, then of course at the end of the day the economy will suffer. So this is where I think when they assist businesses, they are also assisting the recovery of the businesses to actually on a faster track.
Recently, Johor Bahru Bersatu Deputy Chief Razrul Anwar Rusli suggested for the party to work with the opposition bloc to face the UMNO-led Barisan Nasional in the Johor polls. The idea, called Muafakat Rakyat Johor, was meant to put all the opposition parties as well as Perikatan Nasional in a grand coalition. Dr. Siva Murugan Pandian of USM shares his thoughts on Bersatu's apparent identity crisis.
Well, Anwar have made it very clear. Bersatu is not an opposition party, and why would you want to join the opposition front? Definitely Bersatu also, I think, although it came from one of their leaders within Johor. At the federal level, they are working within Perikatan Nasional's framework as the ruling government. How a ruling government political party would want to join the opposition at the state level? I think that's the dilemma that everyone will be looking at if ever they want to talk about the collaboration between Bersatu and the opposition, unless after the election, if there are a slim majority, maybe they would want to consider to bring it back to the drawing board room and also to negotiate and discuss. But at this juncture, I don't think Bersatu should work with opposition because they are the ruling government. They may want to use the same strategy used in Malacca. Perikatan Nasional contested on their own all seats. They faced what they call opposition and also Barisan Nasional on their own. And I strongly believe that would be the formula that Perikatan Nasional would want to still test in Johor.
Siva Murugan added that the Johor state elections will be important for upcoming parties such as Muda and Pejuang to test voters' trust ahead of the 15th general election.
With Syed Saddiq in Muar, he may want to test ground in Johor. To what extent Muda would be able to win some seats. But at this point, although they have decided to work closely with Pakatan Harapan, we have yet to see the distribution of seats, whether it includes Muda or Muda would want to work on their own, contest on their own, maybe with Warisan, whom they have been working closely. And I think Johor will be good ground to test to what extent the new parties would be able to convince and bring trust, confidence among the voters. If they can do that, I think there'll be a huge impact on the result and also the next GE15.
In other news, AirAsia Group has changed the name of its listed holding company to Capital A. CEO Tony Fernandez, when making the announcement today, says the name change is to reflect the diversity of its business portfolio as it seeks to grow its non-airline revenue.
The airline retains the AirAsia brand name, but the group will focus more on expanding other businesses, mainly mobile applications for travel and lifestyle, logistics and e-commerce, as well as financial services.
So the focus of the group is those three pillars. There is no, and if you look at every company, they all can benefit from each other, right? So Teleport's customers can borrow money from BigPay. Super App uses Teleport services for our express business, which will compete with DHL in the courier business. So everything is interlinked, and but it's all based on affordability, accessibility, and inclusiveness.
Fernandez said that the group aims to achieve 50% of its revenue from its non-airline business by 2026, and it plans to focus exclusively on the ASEAN region. Like many carriers, AirAsia has been struggling as borders close due to the pandemic. Bursa Malaysia earlier this month classified the company as PN17 or financially distressed, but Fernandez said the classification is merely an accounting issue and does not affect its liquidity.
Meanwhile, a bill to limit the tenure of the Prime Minister to 10 years is expected to be tabled in the next Parliament meeting. De facto Law Minister Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar says early draft of the amendments to the Constitution is currently being reviewed by political parties.
He said a study on the term limit bill as well as one on anti-hopping legislation were presented at an engagement session with leaders of all political parties on December 22nd. Wan Junaidi had told Parliament that Putrajaya would conduct 2 surveys to obtain public feedback before introducing the 2 bills. The Cabinet will study a report on a proposal to replace the mandatory death penalty with alternative sentences before the end of February. Wan Junaidi said that he had been briefed on the findings by a special committee which was established to conduct an overall review on the sentencing policy and to replace the mandatory death penalty with a more appropriate sentencing subject to the discretion of the courts. However, he said any changes will take some time to be realized.
More in a few minutes. Stay tuned.
Semua yang terjadi adalah berita, tetapi tiada siapa yang boleh bawakan yang terkini dan tergempar seperti kami.
Dilihat hanya memberi wang tanpa matlamat yang tepat. Dia tidak melakukan apa-apa kesalahan.
Untuk mendapatkan jawapan yang bermakna, kita perlu soalan yang tepat.
Amat sedih dengan apa yang berlaku ke atas.
Tiada ruang untuk berita palsu.
Negara kita telah merekodkan kes harian baru sebanyak
hanya fakta yang diberikan.
Amat penting untuk meneruskan perjuangan negara melawan pandemik ini.
Sentiasa memastikan suara anda, suara rakyat didengari.
Kenapa?
Membawakan apa yang penting di mana sahaja anda berada.
Kerana kita hendak putuskan rantaian jangkitan.
Belanjawan dan pendekatan bertemakan survival ini secara keseluruhan.
Teruskan bersama kami, Astro AWANI, saluran berita yang...
Welcome back. A fire broke out at the Malaysian embassy in South Korea today. 20 people were forced to evacuate the embassy in Seoul, but no injuries were reported. Officials said the blaze started from a short circuit from one of the central heating units on the second floor at 9:30 a.m. Parts of the wall and curtains were burnt, while some furniture is damaged. Officials said the fire was put out in 17 minutes. Consular services would resume on Monday, and cleaning work will be conducted over the weekend. On to the latest developments in Ukraine. Russia today sent its strongest signal so far that it is willing to engage with the U.S. after Washington warned that Russia may invade Ukraine next month. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told Russian media that the Kremlin was not seeking conflict over Ukraine, but reiterated that Moscow would not allow its security interests to be ignored.
Lavrov also spoke positively about security proposals received from the US, which he said were better than proposals received from NATO, and that he expects to meet US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in the next couple of weeks. Earlier, President Joe Biden warned that there is a distinct possibility that Russia might invade Ukraine next month. Russia had been building up tens of thousands of troops on Ukraine's borders in recent weeks, stoking fears of an invasion. Russia had denied that it is planning an attack. The White House, in a statement, reaffirmed the readiness of the US and its allies to respond decisively if Russia further invades Ukraine.
Australia will spend $1 billion in efforts to save the ailing Great Barrier Reef. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the allocation, among others, would be used to improve water quality over the time span of 9 years.
Scientists welcome the investment, but warn it does not tackle the threat of climate change. Australia is often criticized for not doing more to prevent coral bleaching caused by rising sea temperatures. A general election is expected in May, where Morrison aims to retain key seats in Queensland, where the reef is located. The announcement also comes days before Australia is due to update UNESCO on its plans to preserve its natural wonder. Last year, Australia stalled a UNESCO decision to downgrade the reef's World Heritage status to in danger, drawing controversy after back-to-back coral bleaching events.
The UN Independent Investigative Mechanism for Myanmar is tasked with collecting evidence of war crimes against civilians in Myanmar. Tonight on Consider This, Melissa Idris and Sharat Kuttan ask its chief, Nicholas Kumjen, what is needed to bring responsible individuals to justice. That's all we have for you on Awani tonight. For all the latest news updates, head on to astroawani.com and the Astro Awani app. I'm Soraya Mia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.